so sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy, sweet. Yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy.
Hi, and welcome to a new episode of the Let's Talk Melbourne podcast. I'm your host, Vikas Raheja, and today I am really excited to have someone truly special. I'm a bit awestruck that she agreed to be on this podcast as well because she is a big deal. So before I jump into introducing her, I'll request my guest to introduce herself, if that's okay. And firstly, welcome Kim to the Let's Talk Melbourne podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm here. You can thank my brother-in-law, Terry Constable. He was saying, my mate wants to interview you on his podcast and you have to say yes. So I always find that's actually the fastest and easiest way to get into people's inboxes is to know somebody that they know. So we can thank Terry for that. Who am I? Kim Constable, 45-year-old mother of four, founder of originally The Sculpted Vegan, but now we are branching out into the company just being simply called Sculpted because we are branching out into different facets of fitness under the brand of Sculpted. And I started the company 8 years ago, grew it myself from my kitchen table while homeschooling my four kids. And now we are the largest online bodybuilding company in the world. It'll be 9 years this year, actually, since I first launched the company.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Kim, if I were to make you walk back down memory lane, do you remember when you first made the decision, you know what, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to run with it? Do you want to talk a bit about that, like how you came to that decision? What were the contributing factors? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Or you were always someone who's very self-assured and I was like, you know what, I've made up my mind and I'm going to go ahead and do this?
It's a really good question, actually. And it's something I do love to talk about because a lot of times people think that I'm an overnight success. You know, like I started the company in 2016 and we launched in 2017, late 2017. And we did it like over $1 million in our first year, which is about probably about 1.5 million Aussie dollars. So people are like, oh, wow, like how were you so successful so quickly? And I'm like, well, I kind of wasn't. Like it started a lot earlier than that because I'll tell you that the pivotal moment was after my fourth son was born. I had actually started a company after my third child was born because we decided to homeschool our kids and rather than go down the traditional route. So I was always at home with the kids, but I did realize that I wanted more for myself, over and above what, my husband was providing. And we had a great life. It wasn't that we didn't, but I just thought, you know what, I really want to start my own business. I was always entrepreneurial and I thought I really want to start my own business and do something that I can manage around the kids. And so I had started a language program for children originally. I had always wanted my kids to have multiple languages. And so I kind of wanted to start a business that would fund that for them. The kids were speaking Chinese, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic and English at the time. And so I had hired these teachers who would come into the house and look after the kids. And then I thought, well, you know what, I can actually provide this for other people. So I started providing that as a service for other families and they would have paid me. But it was kind of exhausting because I was having to drive a lot of the times the people that we employed, the Chinese and Spanish teachers and Arabic teachers, they didn't drive. And so a lot of times I had to drive them to the places and pick them up from the places. And it was a hell of a lot of work. And so what happened was after I got pregnant with Jack unexpectedly, like I didn't expect to be pregnant. I had 4 children in 6 years. So when Jack was born, Corey, our eldest, he was only 5. He hadn't even turned 6 yet. And after he was born, I was still trying to run the Rainbow Garden. And I remember just being completely and utterly overwhelmed and exhausted. I remember standing the day after Jack was born in my home office and we had a big board on the wall, which had all the names of the families and all of the different teachers and where they had to be. And I remember standing with a pen in my hand, looking at the board going, think Kim, think, make your brain work. But I'd literally given birth to my baby the day before. I had home births with all my kids. So I remember I'd literally given birth to him on the day before, and my brain was just not functioning, as you can imagine. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, think. And I had to go back to work straight away. You know, I was running the company, and I just thought there has to be an easier way than this. And trying to organize the kids and trying to get everything, you know, get them out to their activities every day. And then I was also, you know, breastfeeding, and I was, you know, 4 kids under 6 was really difficult. And honestly, one day I nearly had a nervous breakdown. I remember, you know, trying to get them out to tennis lessons or wherever they were going. And I was, you know, one was in the car and I was trying to put the coat on the other one, the baby's crying, and then he took his coat off and the other one took their shoes off. And I was like, like having this moment. And then I remember just sinking to my knees in the middle of the hall and just bursting into tears. And then the kids all started like patting me. They were like, Mommy, are you okay? And I was like, you're not going to tennis today. Like, you know, and I'm thinking, why am I breaking myself in half to run this business and homeschool the kids and do everything? You know, it was exhausting. So I made the decision then to give up the Rainbow Garden. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give up running this as a business. I'm going to keep the languages for the kids, and I'm going to figure out another way to make money. And so this is 13 years ago now. And the online world was really just taking off at the time. It was not anywhere. Facebook had started and was a thing, and Facebook marketing had kind of just, was really beginning to take off. And I thought, and I had heard that there were people making money from ebooks, and I thought, I'm very knowledgeable in a lot of areas, and I've been running a business for a few years now from home, so I'm going to write an ebook. And I thought that the market that I would serve would be stay-at-home mums. And so I started researching and reading and buying programs, and I really dove into internet marketing. And when I went into looking at writing an ebook, I literally went down a rabbit hole. I started to learn about funnels and upsells and all of these different, ways. And then I began to, of course, I had no money at the time. So I was like, I have to try and bootstrap this. So I would have watched every single webinar that existed on how to grow your Pinterest account and how to grow LinkedIn and how to, do Facebook marketing. And I bought course after course after course after course, teaching myself how to build websites, how to use WordPress. I signed up for Aweber. I taught myself how to build campaigns, how to do broadcasts, how to build email lists. Like I taught myself everything, trying to do it myself because I didn't have money to hire a company. So I eventually started an online network called the Work at Home Mums Network, thinking I would teach work at home mums how to build successful businesses from home. And although I had the infrastructure really well set up because I taught myself how to do this in probably about, I would say, 2 to 3 years, I didn't have any way to market the company. And that, I didn't have any way to sell the products. And I was still trying to do everything free to sell the products. And social media didn't exist the way it exists today. Like Instagram wasn't a thing. You could post on your Facebook business page and try to get, stuff organically. But I didn't have the money. And I remember going to a Facebook marketing company at the time and saying to them, could you work with me? And they said, well, our minimum ad spend per month is our fee structure. I think was about $5,000 onboarding, and it's a minimum $10,000 a month ad spend. And I was like, this is US dollars. And I remember going, I don't even have that kind of money. So that was just closed off an avenue for me. But I, because I had watched so many webinars, and then I always wanted to buy the program at the end of the webinar, but could very rarely afford to. That had always stuck in my mind as something that was a really good sales funnel. But anyway, so I tried to make the Work at Home Mums network successful. I made so many videos. I taught myself editing videos and iMovie and everything that you can imagine you could learn online, I taught myself. I tried to do that from 2011 when Jack was born until 2015, I think it was. And eventually in 2015, or could have been early 2016, I think I just went, you know what, this isn't working. I can't keep doing this. I'm breaking myself in half. I'm going to give it up, and I'm just going to become a yoga teacher because I was practicing yoga at the time. I'd been practicing several hours a day. I was an advanced yoga practitioner. I loved teaching. So I'm going to do my certification. I'm going to become a yoga teacher. So I jacked it all in. I gave up everything. I closed down all my accounts, and I did my yoga teacher training, and I began teaching yoga. So I did that for about a year, I would say, very successfully. I started running workshops. We would make about Aussie dollars, about 7,000 Aussie dollars a month I was making running 2 workshops a month,
Wow.
yoga workshops. And so I've always had this kind of bigger entrepreneurial spirit, if you like. And so what happened then was one day I was teaching yoga. I set up a studio at home. I would teach privately at home, and I was very successful and taught and actually charged a lot of money because I had a lot of scarcity. I only had a short amount of time I could teach for. So that made me more in demand, conversely. So one day I was walking past I went into my yoga studio to get something out of one of the drawers. It was a converted bedroom and it had 3 great big mirrors on the window, or on the wall, sorry. And I walked past wearing just, underwear, like a thong and just like a singlet. And I walked past, went to, get something out of the drawer, walked back and turned to look at my glutes in the mirror because I'd never liked my glutes. Like I was skinny, had long, lean muscles, but I was, very skinny, and I had never liked my butt. And I turned to look at it in the mirror and I realized that because I was very skinny and because I was now 37, the skin on it had kind of started to go just a little bit crepey. That's the only way I can describe it, because there was no muscle or fat to fill it out. And I looked at it, and in that moment, I realized it looked like an old woman's butt, literally an old woman's butt. And so I was like, oh no, this will never do. I'm going to have to fill this up with muscle.
It's hard to believe that, but I will take your word for it.
No, I'm telling you, it did. And I was like, I just had this moment where I went, I have 2 choices here. I can either fill this up with fat, which I'm not going to do, or I can fill it up with muscle. And so I decided then and then I was going to go and start training in the gym. I downloaded a program that day. I went to the gym and I started training, and I realized I was really bloody good at it. Like I trained that was in April 2016. I started training, April 2016, I started training in the gym. I trained April, May, June, July, and then I found myself a trainer in July. As I got stronger and stronger, my body started changing. I realized that I was really good at it. I really loved it. And I kind of thought I would love to do a bikini competition because they were, getting really big at the time. And so I told my husband, I think I'm going to do a bikini competition. And he was like, no. And I went, I'm not asking permission, just FYI. So he was horrified. He was like, I don't want you standing on stage in a sparkly thong with everyone looking at your vagina. And I was like, fuck's sake, Ryan, that's not what it's like. But anyway, I was like, I don't care what you say. And because I was vegan at the time, I had been vegetarian for about 20 years, turned vegan really the year before. Whenever I found a trainer to train me for the stage, he said to me, I have no idea how to train a vegan. Like, I don't even know how to advise you on the nutrition. I said, don't worry, I can sort that bit out myself. I've been running a yoga detox company for a year. I've been like researching nutrition since I was like 20, or, I was very into health and nutrition. And I said, I can sort that bit out if you, just do the training. So I remember going home that day and I remember thinking, right, Kim, sit down and work this out. Then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to find the person online who's selling this program, because I had been researching online marketing from 2011 to 2015. And I knew that scalable business models existed, that you could buy a course for anything to teach you how to do anything. And all the courses that I saw were, you are here, and if you do my course, you can be here. You can be earning this, doing this, having this, whatever. So I was like, well, this must exist in the fitness industry. So I went online and I typed in I typed in vegan bikini bodybuilding program. It was nothing. And I was like, oh. So I went bikini athlete vegan bodybuilding 2-stage program. Nothing. And I was like, stage athlete vegan bodybuilding. I put in every single iteration of the phrase that I could find, and nothing came up. There were a couple of online vegans who had programs, but nothing specific. I was looking for specifically, give me the stage program. And in my head, I was going, how much would I be willing to spend on this? And because it was a real need that I had that would have solved a problem that I had, I thought I'd probably be willing to spend up to $2,000, because that's what kind of the really expensive business programs that I've been looking at, Marie Forleo's business school and that kind of stuff, or B school, they were all around that price. So I thought that's what I would be willing to spend. My husband will kill me, but I don't care. So I realized as I was searching, I was like, ding, 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 ding. This does not exist in the world. What I'm searching for does not exist. Veganism was on the rise. It was a rising market. I realized that. So was bodybuilding. And I thought, this doesn't exist as a specific program. And I thought, well, what if I start to create it? And so I did. I started to create it. I started to document all my workouts, started to document all my nutrition. And as I stood on stage for the first time in 2017, April 2017, exactly a year after I'd started bodybuilding, and I documented my entire journey in that year, and I packaged it into a 12-month program. So it was called the Sculpted Vegan Program. It was sculpt the body of a physique athlete in 12 months or less on a vegan diet, even if you've never stepped foot in a gym. And I packaged it, and then, here was the main thing that I did that I had realized from all of my research online was I knew the mistake that I had made whenever I had started the Work at Home Moms Network was I didn't have a way to sell the program. And so I knew that I needed a vehicle for sales, because a lot of people start an online program and they come up with an idea and they do what I did and they do all the learning and all the videos and they create this amazing product, but they're afraid to set up a sales funnel, a sales system. They're afraid to invest in it. But I knew if I didn't invest in it, it wouldn't work. So I went online and I saw that Amy Porterfield, who's become a good friend of mine now, she's one of the big online marketers. She had a program called Webinars That Convert, which basically taught you how to do an entire webinar system to sell your online program. And I thought, well, if Amy is teaching it, she does it. She makes millions from webinars. I'm going to use her system. So I bought that program. It was $997. It was the biggest amount of money I'd ever invested in a program. I paid it off over 12 months and I diligently followed that program. And once I had created the Sculpted Vegan program, so we launched in October 2018. October 2017, we launched. I stood on stage April. We launched October 2017. We did $52,000 in our first launch. I put all of the money on credit cards. I did all the ads myself, £10,000, so about 18,000 Aussie dollars on a credit card. I'm used to doing the conversion because my husband's Australian. Of course, we said in the beginning. So I put all of it on a credit card, launched. We did 52,000 US dollars at launch. And then I plowed all the money back into the company and hired a Facebook ads marketing company who charged me $8,000 a month for a minimum $50,000 a month ad spend. Now, this is US dollars we're talking about here. So add on about another half for Aussie dollars. And I hired them and they took the company. Like that first year, we grew to over $1 million because I went from, once they automated everything, automated the sales funnel within the webinar, we started making about $6,000 to $10,000 a day in sales. And so the program worked. And so that is how, it's quite a long story, but you need to kind of know the background of it. There wasn't like one moment. Well, there was one moment when I realized this would work, but had I not spent from 2011 to 2015 learning online marketing, I never could have moved as quickly as I did when I locked onto my idea of the Sculpted Vegan. And so that's the story of how it all began.
That's amazing. And you know what's fascinating to me most listening to you was that you're obviously someone who's you're perseverant, you're determined, but you're also someone who is, fearless. And I say this because, how when I was listening to you talking, so you're obviously self-taught. You learned everything by yourself. You also had a sense of self-awareness where you knew that things were not working out. You knew if there was an exit strategy in place. You were not delusioned or you didn't buy into the fantasy of like, I'm going to make this work. You kind of tried and tested and then you made your way through it. But what's amazing is that did you ever think that if all of this fails and nothing works, where do I go from here? Because you spoke about, putting it on your credit cards. So obviously, I'm just curious to know, deep inside, there was this very strong idea or belief in yourself where you were like, it's going to happen and I'm going to keep doing it because I've tried and tested permutations and combinations and this is the trajectory I'm going to take. Was that... I don't know if you want to talk about that or if I'm...
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think that I took a lot of calculated risks. I think that people are afraid to take risks because they don't have the data to back them up. So there's a couple of things that happened with me. First of all, I knew that I had a good product that had a market. And the reason why I knew that was because I was searching for the product myself and it didn't exist. So when you have a need or you have a problem that you're trying to solve and the answer to that problem does not exist, that is a massive opportunity in the market. And the harder it is to solve that problem, the more of an opportunity you have, i.e. the longer it takes you to solve that problem. Yeah. So that was the first thing. The second thing was because I had followed because I bought Amy Porterfield's blueprint for webinars that she was using to grow her business at the time to, I don't know what she was doing, but it was tens of millions, I think, at the time. She was using this exact blueprint. I knew it would work for two reasons. The first one was every single webinar that I had ever been on, and I had been on hundreds of them over the years, I wanted to buy the product at the end. Like I wanted to. So, and unless it was really super cheap, I just couldn't afford to. But I left every webinar going, oh, like I want to buy the product. They'd really sold me with it. So I knew that if I could just do a really kick-ass webinar and that people would buy at the end. But here was the third thing that I had understood from all of my research over the years. I began researching a lot of sales gurus, and there was one particular sales guru I used to follow. Excuse me. His name was Tom Hopkins, and Tom Hopkins taught me a couple of things. First of all, just through his books. First of all, what he taught was sales is a numbers game. So in every group of 10 people, there will be 2 people who are interested in what you have to sell. 2 people who are willing to buy. So not even interested, but actually willing to buy. So out of every 10, there's 2 that are willing to buy. It's the Pareto's Law, 20%. And then there'll be 2 that will never buy out of that 10 people. And then the other, 6 people in the middle will kind of be ambivalent. If you can persuade them, they might, or if they're, whatever. But there will always be 2 in 10 people who'll be willing to buy. And so I really looked at those numbers, and I thought, well, this guy again has made millions from sales, from book sales online. These people are teaching things that work. I think today it's sometimes hard to separate the experts from the online influencers. There's a lot of online influencers out there making Instagram videos, claiming to be big business people, and they have a lot of theory, but not a lot of experience to back it up, And so I thought to myself, well, here's the thing. Let's play the numbers game. So if I enroll 1,000 people if I enroll 10 people in my webinar, then 2 of them are gonna buy. If I enroll 100 people, then, potentially 20 of them are going to buy, or at least be interested in buying, right? And if I enroll 1,000 people, then potentially 200 of them are going to be interested in buying. Now, Tom further broke down the 2 and 10, okay? So he said if you're in front of someone making a presentation to them, 2 of them will be interested and will probably buy. If you're not in front of them speaking face to face, he said then the number shrinks a little bit. So it actually goes to about 2%. So 2% of cold traffic online will be willing to buy. And so because I had learned this, I was like, okay, so if I enroll 1,000 people for my webinar, 20 of them are going to purchase. Tom says it's true. And if Tom says it's true, I'm going to believe him, right? So I started running the numbers in my head, and I was going, so if I register, 500 people, I'm going to sell, 10. If I register 1,000 people, I'm going to sell 20. So then I went, well, what do I have to charge for the program to make that 20 worthwhile? And I began to look at, the cost of ads and that kind of stuff, and what it would and what it would take me to register 1,000 people. So once I had confidence in the numbers, once I knew that sales was a numbers game, and I really dived into this a lot and looked at, and it was true across the board. Everyone who was teaching selling said sales is a number game. Another really good tip, actually, for your listeners is every no is worth money. So if you know that your sales conversion is, say you'll sell 1 person in every 10 people you talk to, that 1 person, let's say your product costs $100, that 1 person isn't worth $100. That 1 person is worth $10. And every single no that you get until you get to that yes is also worth $10. So because sales was a numbers game, I mapped it out like that. And I went, okay, in order to sell 20 programs at $1,000, I need to enroll 1,000 people. And so I set out my goal was to enroll 1,000 people and for it to cost less than $20,000 to do it. So it cost me, I did all my own Facebook ads. I knew nothing about retargeting. Like I was very unsophisticated. It cost me £10,000 in credit card spend to enroll those. I enrolled 1,000 people in my webinars, in the first webinars that I did. And we ended up, one person actually wanted a monthly coaching option. So she was paying $1,000 a month for 12 months. That wasn't even an option. I just like created that as an option once I had, started hustling. So she paid me $12,000, and then I ended up selling 40 programs. So I actually did more than the 2% conversion. I sold 40 programs at $1,000 each, and I ended up making $52,000 in total, which at the time was 3, 24, 65, about £40,000. I think I made in GBP, and I'd spent 10,000, so I made 30,000 profit. So it was one. So yes, it was so one more thing about that is it was terrifying spending the 10,000 on a credit card. But I asked myself, how much can I afford to lose? Like if I put 10,000 on a credit card, can I afford to pay this back? Now the answer was yes. I didn't tell my husband I put 10,000 on a credit card. I knew he would crucify me. Now, but could we afford to? Would that 10,000 have bankrupted us? No. It wouldn't have been easy to pay it back, but it wouldn't have bankrupted us. So you never want to take a risk so big that it can bankrupt you. But there is an amazing thing that happens when you put skin in the game. When you have a $10,000 credit card bill that your husband does not know about, that you have to hustle. It's incredible what you will do to make it work. And so that is the way I run my business. Like it actually terrifies my husband because he's much more risk adverse than me. But the way I've grown my business is by taking big risks. I actually take big risks. And that because I constantly have had my back against the wall, because I'm always taking risks and I'm always reinvesting and I'm always growing, I constantly have my back against the wall. Like we only ever have about 6 months cash flow in the business at any one time, but we're changing that this year because I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted trying to pay the bills all the time. But so because I've always been in that position of this has to work or I can't pay the wages.
Yeah.
It's incredible what happens when it has to work. You hustle and you make it work. And that's the way I've always operated.
That's fascinating. So if I have to just sort of break it down for listeners and viewers. So firstly, do your research. Be very, very thorough with your research. That's what you've always done. Have data and numbers to back up that research so that, they complement, they supplement, you know what you're getting into. Take calculated risks. I think you made a powerful point of like, be sure of that, okay, if you lose an X amount of money, you'll be okay. But don't gamble more than you cannot afford to. Like have this amount of self-awareness. And also I think, which is interesting is that you've always looked at successful people as reference points to either learn, emulate, or incorporate their business strategies in the way you function. And this is perhaps, I'm assuming here, is aligned to your own personal vision of how you operate as well, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I've always looked at, I think that if you want to do something that you want to be successful, look at someone who's been successful in what you've done and ask them how they did it.
From them. Yeah, it's perfect.
People have their business plans on their website. Like you can literally go and see just look at their entire website and see what their funnels are and how they're selling and what they're offering. And that's their entire business plan right there. And so I am not what I call an ask hole. Like if I come to you, if you're doing something better than me and I come to you and I say, what do you think I should do? And you tell me what you think I should do. If you're someone I trust and respect and someone who's done much better than me, I do it. Like I don't go, and I think in the beginning, what happens is happens all the time. People come to me and they say, what do you think I should do about this? Like friends of mine, I'm going to start this business. Do you think I should do this or this? And I go, no, don't do that. Because honestly, like if you do that it's a waste of your time. You won't be able to keep up with it. It's not a good use of your time. Don't do that. And they go, but I thought, I'm like, no, trust me, honestly. And they go, oh, okay. And then they go ahead and do it anyway. And I'm like, why would you ask me and then just completely disregard my advice? Yeah. Whereas I have a mentor who actually lives in Australia. She's from Scotland, but she lives in Australia, and we've become very good friends, and she mentors me. She sold her company for $1 billion. And she, said to me last year, you need to do an app. Why do you not have an app? And I was like, we did have an app, but it didn't work the way I was doing as we were doing this. She said, you need to stop what you're doing, plow everything into this one option. And I was like, you know what, you're right, I'm going to do that. And I did it. And we built an app in 9 weeks and we launched it last week and we sold out on the first day. We were opening up slots so we can onboard people. And I just took my entire team off what they were doing and plowed everything into this one resource. And if it didn't work, we're screwed. Like literally we were 6 weeks from bankruptcy whenever the app launched, but now, the money's all flowing in again. And then she said to me recently, I was having some difficulties with some staffing issues. And she said, you need to stop employing staff. You need to clear out your staff and you need to start going to companies now. She said, you need a marketing company. You do not need to be doing your digital marketing in-house now. You need a company that will do it both online and offline. You need to outsource all of your finances. Your financial controller cannot manage where the company's going. Outsource it to your accountancy firm, have them manage everything, do this. And I was like, great, no problem. So on Monday, I started clearing out the company. I started clearing out, what we were doing, started, offshoring everything. I just, when she gives me advice, I'm like, she manages and advises billion-dollar companies. And she is now, and that's where I want to go. So she's like, here's what you do if you want to exit your business and build a billion-dollar business. You don't operate on this level, you do this. So as soon as she told me what I should do, I was like, okay. And I just started doing it, So I think that is one of the secrets to my success as well.
Yeah.
Like I follow what people tell me who are doing better than me.
But also, I think there's a little bit of modesty there because even if say someone very experienced came and gave you all of those things, to implement that to your business is not easy, right? Like you're obviously you're giving to. I'm not saying you're giving too much credit to other people, but you're also applying yourself on a daily basis because you're taking, curating, testing, and implementing. How easy or difficult it is for you? And I also want to follow this up with another question: is that you're a mother of 4 young kids when you
Well,
started
they're not
this.
young anymore. They're all teenagers.
When you started this, I mean, when you
Yeah.
when you sort of ventured into this adventure of yours, how did you manage to compartmentalize the time? Like, because I think everyone will be curious to know is that you did businesses, you were raising kids, you were managing a house, you had your own life. Physical bandwidth is one thing. Emotional bandwidth is another thing. I don't know if you wanted to sort of share
Yeah,
about
of course.
how do you sort of, what was your operating model or what were some of the tips that you could give to, and I'm pretty, I don't think it's mothers or men or women. I think both parents have to do what they have to do when it comes to stuff like this. Any thoughts or advice for parents listening?
You have to learn to work smarter. And so what I did was I looked at my day, which started, our kids in Belfast don't usually get up till about, 6:37. And I know in Australia it's a lot earlier, but it's about 6:37 here. And so I realized I was too exhausted to work in the evening. And so the kids got up, say around 7 a.m. So I thought, well, I need the only time that I have free in the day because no one napped at the same time. Like I was full on from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I had a good bedtime routine with the kids. They always went to bed at around 7 or 8 p.m. And so I started getting up at 4 a.m. I thought I can give myself uninterrupted work time to build this business between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. So I would go to bed, around 8:30 or 9, which I know is not unusual for Australians, but is very early for Northern Irish people. So I would go to bed at like 8:39 and then I would set my alarm for 3:45 and I would get up at 3:45 and I would be at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and my computer at 4 a.m. And I would work solidly from 4 a.m. until I heard the dung, 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 the first feet, coming into the kitchen. And I did that for several years because it was the only time that I had child free. But then I also started restructuring my day in terms of time chunking. So I looked at all of the responsibilities that I had. I had to shop, I had to cook, I had to, clean and take the kids to their appointments and activities. And so I began to look at how can I be more efficient? I think that one of the reasons I've managed to be so successful is because I am hyper efficient. I look for a way to be more efficient in every single thing that I do. And so I was like, how can I do what I do more efficiently, more proactively and less reactively? So I took out my diary and I time chunked my day into so first of all, I put in all of the different activities and where the kids had to go and things that were non-negotiables, put all those in the calendar. And then in each day I began to look at, okay, when am I going to cook each day for the evening? And usually it was in the morning. I allocated 60 minutes between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. for cooking. I think I allocated 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. for laundry. And so every morning at 8 a.m., I did laundry. And I didn't just do it like I did it. I folded it. I put it away. I efficiently worked the system. every morning at that time. 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. was cooking. I sat down every week with recipe books. I planned exactly what I was going to make for dinner every single night. I did the shopping for that. I had it all delivered to the house. So I knew every night what was being made, and I had the ingredients in the fridge. So I never had to go out, buying extra ingredients.
Yeah.
I just became hyper efficient at doing everything in my life so that I could create emotional and mental space to be able to focus on the business. And that is carried through in everything that I do. Like in the office, they laugh at me because if I can create a system for something I'm always looking for hacks of ways I can systematize something to make it more efficient. And when you can make something more efficient, when you can systematize it, you can move so much faster than everybody else. And that has been part of my success, to be honest, is that I move faster than most people. I don't wait. I don't have an idea and then think, oh yeah, I'll call that person tomorrow. Like if I have an idea and I go, shit, I think this would be a really good idea. I got home the other night at 9 o'clock. I was exhausted. I could hardly think. My brain was fried. It was Monday. We had just launched the app. There were different issues and bugs we had to sort out. I finally got home at 9 o'clock and I sat down at the kitchen table. I had my dinner. My husband came in to chat to me and I was like, oh, I need to sort this out and this out and have these different things. And I was like, I have this problem I need to solve and I just can't think how to solve it. And he and I talked it over for a minute and I went, you know what? I've actually just had an idea. I said, I could have this person come and do this. And that would solve the problem. And he was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. I was like, I'm going to call her now. And I just picked up the phone and it was her day off. And I was like, can you talk? She was like, yeah, what's up? And I said, I've had this really good idea. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but let me know what you think. And I talked it over with her and she was like, it's one of my staff members. And she was like, yeah, I can totally do that. I think that's awesome. And I went, great. Come in this week and chat to me. And I was like, let me pull out my calendar now. It wasn't like, I'll call you tomorrow to make an appointment. I was like, immediately, right. What about Thursday morning, 9 a.m.? Can you be in the office? Perfect. I said, I've given you 2 hours on Thursday morning. We're going to meet on Thursday morning. So the idea was hatched, thought of, talked out, and the appointment set there and then. And it's gone from my head. I don't have to think about it until Thursday again. Do you know?
Yeah.
So
and
the
you
problem
blocked
is,
out that time as well.
yeah,
as you
most
said.
people they just procrastinate on things. Whereas in the company, I have an idea for something and I go, guys, this would be an amazing idea. And I go, okay, Ricky, you do that. Laura, you do this part of it. I'm going to do this part of it. Let's meet back here in an hour and let's create the system for it now. And I just move faster than anybody else. And I don't think about it. I don't procrastinate over it. I'm not afraid of failure. If it doesn't work, well, shit, we tried it and we moved on. Like most people, by the time most people have thought about something and had a meeting about it, I've done it 5 times, failed 3 times and figured out a better way. So I think, one of the advantages, Cody Sanchez, one of the online entrepreneurs I follow at the minute, she's fabulous. I love her. She always says that, if you just, I think one of her mentors said, a competitive advantage that you have in the world is just go faster than other people. You don't have to be smarter, better, richer. You just have to move faster. And if you move faster, you will outcompete most people because of the speed at which you move. And that is something that definitely is very true in my life.
Oh, that's amazing. There you go. You should. I hope you intend to write a book at some point in your life.
I do.
And I hope you chunked out.
Well, I've already actually found a ghostwriter who's going to write a book for me. So that's the next stage.
There you go. You've already thought it through.
Yeah.
I now just want to talk to you about veganism and vegans and sort of stuff. So I just want to. I'm just curious to know your thoughts. Is like when it first started, many people were skeptical. They thought it was a fad. A lot of companies and corporates used it for ethical investing and there were a lot of people made a lot of money out of it, right? Whether or not they believed it or not. But now, at least here in Melbourne, where I live in Australia, there are people who are genuinely into veganism. They are vegans and they are, there's a whole industry out there now. When did you decide, that this is something this is a lifestyle choice that I'm going to pursue is to be a vegan, and then also make it, spread the awareness, not only just, of course, as a business, but also in terms of onboarding people to sort of say, hey, by the way, you know what? These are the advantages and these are the things you should consider. I was just curious to know how did you get into the whole thing? Yeah.
When I tell people, they're always shocked actually by this story. So because it's not what they expect to hear. I was vegetarian for many years because here's the thing about me, right? Which is the reason why people love me and hate me, but it's the reason why most people trust me is because I'm just honest, right? I don't I don't tell you what I think would be a nice story. I just tell you the truth, right? And so when I became vegetarian about 20 years ago, because my best friend at the time, who I really admired and looked up to, was vegetarian. And I was like, oh, well, maybe being vegetarian makes you more successful. So I was in my early 20s, and she was a few years older than me, but she had started and was running quite a big and successful company. And I wanted to be, this is before I met Ryan, my husband, I wanted to be successful at the time too. I'd just gone out on my own to start a human development company. And I decided that I wanted to be successful too. So I was like, well, if she's vegetarian and she's really successful, maybe that's part of the success. So I'm going to be vegetarian too. So that is why I became vegetarian. Now, it did become an ethic for me over the years. Once I started looking into, how animals are killed, and about, basically the other thing is I'm a humanitarian first and foremost. I care about people. And one of the things that really made vegetarianism become an ethic for me was when I learned that the amount of effort that goes into feeding one cow to kill it for meat could feed 2,000 hungry people. I was like, there are starving people all over the world, and we are putting the amount of grain, energy, effort, money, taking care of the cow, all of these things, even the amount of energy that goes into making the grain to feed that cow, that could feed 2,000 people. And so I was like, this is so wrong. So I became vegetarian because my best friend was vegetarian, but it became an ethic for me. The reason I became vegan genuinely was because I like doing hard things. And I realized that veganism was one more step from vegetarianism. And I was really into health at the time. And I had been reading lots of different books about health. And I kept thinking, I wonder, would veganism be healthier than vegetarianism? Like, I keep hearing all these things online about how veganism is super, super healthy. And I read a book called The China Study, which was the largest study into nutrition ever conducted in our time. And they showed in the China study how they could turn on and turn off cancer growth in rats, which have a very similar physiology to humans, which is why they use them in testing. They could inject rats with cancer, and then they could feed them, if they fed the rats more than 15% animal protein specifically, the cancer cells increased and multiplied. And then once they'd increased and multiplied, if they reduced the amount of animal protein they gave them down to below 15%, the cancer cells shrunk. So they could turn on and turn off cancer growth in rats by increasing or decreasing the animal protein. And then they began to investigate the links between animal protein, specifically animal fat. Casein is actually one of the biggest known carcinogens that came out of that study. Casein, which is in milk, it's a protein in milk. So that is one of the most known carcinogens. And whenever I read the study, I was like, I can't refute this evidence. I cannot unsee what I've seen here. And I thought, well, health and longevity is super important to me, so I'm going to give veganism a go. So that's why I decided to be veganism. Like, I would love to say, oh, it's for the animals, but it wasn't. It was for me and for my health, which is why I never became fully vegan. Because the other thing is, at the time, there wasn't all of these categories of vegan, like ethical vegan, plant-based vegan. It was just vegan was classified as someone who did not eat animal products. And so whenever I started my company and I started the name The Sculpted Vegan, I remember having someone wrote to me on Instagram and they said, are you ethical vegan? And I was like, are you plant-based? And I went, I'm sorry, I don't even know what that means. What do you mean? They were like, oh, well, plant-based is someone who only eats, doesn't eat animals, but vegan or ethical vegan is someone who doesn't use any animal products at all. And I was like nothing? And they were like, no, you don't sleep in feather beds, you don't wear leather, you don't, use any. And I was like, oh wow, no, that is not me. I just don't eat animals. So I've had a lot of flack for that over the years from, the angry preachy vegans, as I call them. They come after me, telling me I should change my name to The Sculpted Plant-Based and all this. They don't understand The Sculpted Vegan is a company. This is what I tell people. The Sculpted Vegan isn't a person. The Sculpted Vegan is a company. And the Sculpted Vegan company is vegan, fully vegan. Yeah. But the Sculpted Vegan is not a person. I am a person, Kim Constable, and I am plant-based. But people don't seem to be able to make the distinction. And I understand why, because, my Instagram was The Sculpted Vegan in the beginning. But that is where the whole veganism came from. That's where I went down the vegan route. And then once you're vegan, it's easy to be vegan. It's not, you just adapt a whole new way of life. But my new app that we've just launched called The Sculpted Menopause, it's not vegan. And a lot of my current customers are confused. They've gone on and they're like, Why are there meat and vegetarian products on here? We're like, because the Sculpted Menopause is a subsidiary of Sculpted. It's not the Sculpted Vegan. It's,
Yes.
there are vegan, vegetarian and omnivore options, but it's not exclusively vegan. But they can't separate me. They're like, but you're vegan and you started the company. Why would you start this? I'm like, because I'm a businesswoman and an entrepreneur more than anything, more than I'm a vegan. And, this is an opportunity that, it exists for menopausal women and that I've decided to take, So that's where the veganism journey, I guess, came from. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it
No,
does.
it does, absolutely. I think, and I was, so mine is a little sloppy story. So I turned vegan because we got a pet during the lockdown and we were stuck at home. And the minute we got our dog, I turned vegan in a few weeks. It just naturally happened because, I was like, oh my God, I just can't. It was rightly or wrongly. I also, to be fair, there were times when I also kind of like, you know what, I really crave a chicken wing. So I have faltered as well. So
Yeah,
I'm
of
not
course, we all
restricting.
have.
We all have, and it's just human. But I think the struggle that I found the most, and everyone whom I've spoken to in Melbourne, was that it's if you're in like bodybuilding is perhaps a different kind of a specific goal, but if you're gymming and for weight loss and fat loss, being a vegan and doing all of those things is really really hard, and we all so steamroll by it. We try to grapple, but it's impossible. So. I know you've got a lot of content on your Instagram where you spoke at length about all of these things. I was wondering if there was any, like, one or two key attributes that you want to sort of cover, if that's
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
I don't think it's hard at all. I think we're just uneducated. I think
Yeah.
that people just don't know. Like the Sculpted Menopause app that we have just created is the thing that sets us apart from every other app on the market is the amount of time, energy, and effort we have put into the recipes and the meal plans. It's kind of it's an afterthought for most people. So because I have the benefit of being vegan and being a vegan bodybuilder, I know more than most bodybuilders out there about nutrition. So most bodybuilding apps are started by omnivores. Very few of them are started by vegans. So
Yeah.
the vegan part of it is kind of an afterthought and it's very poor. Like it's really not, because a lot of bodybuilders, you would say to them, traditional ones, they would say, where do vegans get their protein? They're like, oh, well, nuts and seeds and legumes and chickpeas. I'm like, no, nuts and seeds are a fat. They're not a protein. Legumes, beans, lentils, all those kinds of things, they're a carb source. They're not protein. They're just so uneducated on lean protein. And so whenever you're educated in veganism, what you realize is you really just build your meals the same way as an omnivore does into lean protein, fats and carbs. And so you just have to understand what those sources of lean protein are. Now, tofu is a great source of protein. It's not lean, it's very high in fat. And so it's not something, if you're shredding or cutting, is easy to eat a lot of the time. But tofu can be made into a tofu scramble. I have a tofu scramble every single morning made with silken tofu, which is literally made into eggs, and they taste like eggs, they're flavored like eggs, like they have the consistency of scrambled eggs. You do not miss scrambled eggs when you're eating scrambled silken tofu. So every morning 30 grams of protein. Mid-morning then I will have a scoop of protein powder. A lot of people discount protein powder. Oh, it's not real food. I'm like, well, like what's important to you? Like eating a whole food diet or getting in your protein. For me, it's about getting protein. So I will have a scoop of vegan Wonder Shake with, are you ready? Frozen riced cauliflower. So a lot of people are like, what? I'm like, so frozen
That was my
riced
reaction.
cauliflower. Yeah, it's a bodybuilder staple. It makes everything creamy and delicious, and it does not taste of cauliflower. So it has to be the frozen riced cauliflower. So I have a private chef at home now because there's no way I could cook. So he preps all my food. So he will make me a full scoop of vegan Wonder Shake. It's 30 grams of protein plus about 100 grams of frozen riced cauliflower with water, blends it up, gives it to me, and it's like a creamy, delicious protein shake. Lunch then is seitan. So seitan is made from vital wheat gluten. What they basically do is they take the grain of wheat and they wash the wheat. So it's like a milky white water. And then that milky white water, they literally wash the gluten out of the grain. That's just pure gluten. Pure gluten is pure protein. So not good for celiacs. But what they do is they basically powder that pure gluten. And that then becomes, it looks like white flour, but it's not, it's pure gluten. And if you take that as the basis, you can make that into something called seitan. So my chef makes batches of seitan every single day. It's so easy to make. Everyone in my company, all my customers, they all make seitan. It takes about 10 minutes to make and about 20 minutes to steam. It is 30 minutes top to total, and you can make a full week's worth of seitan in 30 minutes. And you just add, I think you add some cannellini beans and nutritional yeast, and I think there's tofu, some silken tofu goes in there, and there's like a paste, like a stock paste, and some different flavorings. I haven't made it in years, so I can't even remember, but it's so easy to make seitan, and it tastes like chicken. It has the texture of chicken. You can slice it, pull it, cube it. You can do anything with it, and you can make it into seitan steaks. It's incredible what you can do with it. And so every lunchtime I have some kind of seitan chicken, usually with some kind of rice and broccoli, and we put frozen riced cauliflower in the rice because it bulks it out. So I'm on a cut at the minute, so I'm only on 1,700 calories, and so I can bulk out my food a lot with things like frozen riced cauliflower. And but the basis of the meal is the protein, and then dinner again, like 30 grams of protein always at dinner, usually some seitan base. And then in the evening I will have, my chef makes these amazing chocolate desserts, so he will take 2 scoops of chocolate bueno protein powder. He takes frozen riced cauliflower, puts a little bit of water into it, blends it into like a paste, and then he adds 2 scoops of protein powder, a teaspoon of cocoa powder, and 30 grams of peanut butter, which is all of my macros, blends it up, pours it into a glass, and puts it in the fridge to chill. And it's like eating a chocolate truffle mousse in the evening. So every evening when I feel like something sweet, that glass comes out of the fridge. I'm eating away at that. Sometimes he puts orange in it, makes like chocolate orange. It is absolutely superb. Sometimes he spreads the peanut butter onto like a piece of baking paper, freezes it, and then breaks it up into peanut butter chips, makes the chocolate mousse, and then puts the peanut butter chips through the chocolate mousse. Absolutely amazing.
God. I'm salivating just listening to it.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And so you just have to prioritize your protein. Like I will have protein powder twice a day. I'll have seitan twice a day, and I'll have scrambled tofu in the morning. And I would eat about 150 to 180 grams, but probably about 180 grams of protein a day. Easy. So it's really just about being prepped in advance, knowing, you can buy seitan in the stores, you can buy meat substitutes in the stores. They have enough protein in them. You just have to know what to look for, like lean protein, less than 10 grams of fat per 100, less than kind of 5 to 10 grams of carbs per 100 is what you're aiming for. And it's super easy to get your protein as a vegan.
Well, there you go. You've got another book, a recipe book. Trust me, I'll buy it. I'm your number. I'll be the first.
Well, we have
person to order it
400 recipes on our new app. Like it's insane, the recipes that we have, and I would say more than half of them are vegan. So it's it's super, super easy. It's really not hard. You just need to know how.
Yeah, I'll put the link for the app and stuff on the notes. So
no, it's perfect. Yeah, probably none of your listeners would be in it. It's for menopausal women, but it's like...
Which is a perfect segue. Now, some of these are questions from your followers or people who have engaged with your content or people who have sort of been following you and your mostly Instagram journey, so to speak. And I just did a post in a story and I asked them, okay, Kim's coming. What are the kind of questions that you have? So we chose 5 questions. These are your fans. You can consider them your fans. And so if you're ready, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to ask those 5 questions. So, okay. And these are from everyone who follows you. So first one is, when should women realize that they are in the early phase of menopause? What are some of the cues that they need to pick up on or look out for?
As soon as you have symptoms. So what I've learned is perimenopause starts at around age 35. For me, I started having perimenopausal symptoms at 37, but I didn't even consider it was perimenopause. I thought I was too young. One of the things that started happening was I started getting constant UTIs, so constant urinary tract infections. This is going to be TMI, so if you're a man listening to this, hold your ears. But basically what happens is whenever your ovaries start to fail or your ovary function starts to decline, your ovaries are responsible for producing estrogen in your body. So every time an egg matures in the ovum, the membrane sac around the egg is actually responsible for releasing estrogen into the bloodstream. So whenever you get to, about 37 or about 35, you have about 8% of your eggs left, less, maybe 5%. Whenever you get to age 40, you only have about 2% of your eggs left. So your body does not want to release those eggs because that is its source of estrogen. So also what happens is whenever your estrogen levels start to decline, you can start to get things like thrush and UTIs and different things because estrogen levels start to decline in the vagina. And so you the bad bacteria can take over. And so I didn't realize that this was happening, and I would go to my doctor and I would get all these different tests, and they would say there's nothing wrong, you don't have an infection. Like they were giving constant antibiotics to try and get rid of it. So I didn't realize that that was a symptom of perimenopause. And I think that this is the problem. We're very uneducated. And do you know why we're uneducated? Because perimenopause is not taught in medical school. This is the first year that they are teaching perimenopause in medical school. It wasn't even recognized as a period in a woman's life. They taught menopause, which happens at around the age of 51 and what might happen, but perimenopause was simply not taught. So as soon as you start having symptoms, and it's not, I think that most women associate things like hot flushes and night sweats and that kind of stuff with menopause. Once that starts to happen, they think, oh, I'm in perimenopause, but that's only because that's the one that is known, that is the most commonly known. Women aren't realizing that if you're starting to get sore feet, that's a massive one. Constant headaches, insomnia, you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the night, you're hot at night. My menopause specialist doctor says being hot at night is the first symptom of perimenopause that she looks for. So as soon as you start having menopausal symptoms, you should fight for your right for HRT. Many women are against HRT, but let me tell you why it's super important. HRT protects your body later in life. It's not for symptoms. It does help with symptoms of perimenopause, but it's actually to protect your brain health, your bone health, and your heart health later on in life. Women who start HRT early in their menopausal journey at around age 40, 45, or 50.
Sorry, can you say what HRT is, just so
Oh,
that
it's
people
hormone
don't know?
replacement therapy, sometimes
Okay.
called menopause hormone therapy, MHT or HRT, hormone replacement
Okay.
therapy. So it's basically a mix of estrogen, of estradiol, which is the main estrogen, and progesterone. And so women who start hormone therapy earlier actually have a 40% reduced rate of osteoporosis, dementia, and cardiovascular heart disease, which is the main killer in women later on in life. So estrogen is for prevention, not for cure. Many women think, oh, it's just to take away your perimenopausal symptoms and then they'll stop it afterwards. No, you wouldn't stop it. You would continue to take it for the rest of your life. And I would fight for your right for HRT because doctors are simply not educated on menopause. If you come in at age 47 with all these menopausal symptoms, they'll say, well, you're too early for menopause, because they just don't know about perimenopause. So anytime from age 35, but I would say my doctor says she believes that every woman should be on HRT by the age of 45. So anywhere between 40 and 45 is when it starts for most women. Night sweats, sore feet, brain fog, headaches, gluteal tendinopathy. I had it all. I used to hobble to the bathroom in the morning because my feet were so painful to walk on. I could not figure out why my feet were sore. It's perimenopause. It's lack of estrogen. So as soon as you start to feel the symptoms, get yourself to your doctor and advocate for yourself, because you want to protect yourself later on in life.
Okay, thank you. Second question was, Kim, when I turned 40, my life changed, the penny dropped for me. What advice would you give to someone who's just turned 40, and especially when they're somewhere between anxiety and self-doubt? What are some of the advice that you could give?
Get to know yourself. Get to know yourself really, really, really well. I think that self-awareness is the key to happiness in life. Self-awareness and being at cause. I think that when you begin to really establish and look at patterns of behavior, why you do things, why things make you happy or sad, what are the postulates that you have that hold you back from being successful? When you start to slow down, like a lot of women say to me, oh, I just can't stop self-sabotaging. And I'm like, self-sabotage is a choice. Like you have a piece of cheesecake in front of you and you're on a diet and you choose to eat that cheesecake. That's not self-sabotage. That's a choice. That's a choice because staying on your diet wasn't important enough to you. Eating the cake was more important. So a lot of women, you just need to slow down and say, okay, what am I going for in eating this? And is my goal actually important enough to me? I think that when women become more aware, more self, people say to me all the time, like, how do you do this? Why are you so good at this? Why are you so good at that? I'm like, because I'm super self-aware. I began a journey of self-discovery whenever I was in my early 20s. I began to dig deep into who I am, why I function, why I do what I do, why I'm responsible for every single thing that happens in my life. And one of the things that I always do is I look for where I'm responsible. And this is what women don't do. So if something bad happens in my company or something bad happens in my life where I am a victim, in inverted commas, of somebody else, I look at, how did I create this? Where did I choose to hire this person? Where did I choose to ignore the data that this person was like this? Where did I choose to, like, you know, if you can say, oh, my husband is so terrible, my life is so awful, like he's so mean to me all the time. Well, how did you create it? And people are like, well, I didn't create it. My husband's just mean to me. I'm like, well, you married him.
Yeah.
And you chose to stay married to him. So clearly you are choosing this because the alternative is harder. You know, like if you choose to stay married to a man who's mean to you, it's because leaving him is harder than staying. So human beings always choose the easiest path. So if we only change when change becomes easier than staying the same. So if you're staying the same and you're unhappy, that's a choice that you're making. Be at cause with that choice, and either continue to, you know, do it joyfully or change. We are not victims of our lives. And I think that getting over victimhood and making ourselves victims is one of the most important thing a woman can do for herself, a man and a woman, but certainly a woman of age 40. You will have a much happier decade in your 40s if you do.
All right, just two more questions from your fans. So the third one is, Kim, I'm vegan. I'm fully vegan in terms of my food and in terms of my diet, but I do love my Birkins and I get judged and trolled for it constantly. What advice would you give to the situation that I am in?
Well, I just always say people are always going to judge you. You know, like I say to people tell me all the time that I'm doing things wrong and I'm not vegan enough to be vegan and I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do that. And I just say to them, you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right. And they go, well, I am right. And you're like, I know, I should be better. I really should try and be better, shouldn't I? But I like my Birkins. So, you know, like whenever you say to someone, you're probably right, it just cuts them off at the knees. They want to be right. So I learned a few years ago, just stop defending your choices, you know, because really you're not answerable to anyone. You know, you can choose to, you know, like who holds the standard of veganism? Who decided that a vegan should be, you know, this way? But here's the other thing. People will only judge you based on their own fears. So when something is truly an ethic for someone, as in like they eat it, sleep it, breathe it, their behavior matches their beliefs, then they don't feel the need to judge others because they are fully at cause and at peace with their choice for how they live their life. So if I see you living your life in a way that is different to me, I'm okay because I'm okay with my choice. So I assume you're okay with your choice. And why would I try and change you? But when something's a rule for someone or it's based on fear, then I see you doing the thing that triggers my fear. I need to stop you doing that thing so I can make my fear go away. That's why we punish others. So if I see you doing something and I disagree with it or it triggers a fear in me, I need you to stop doing it because I need the fear to go away. And I think if I could just stop you from wearing the Birkenstocks, then I don't have to feel fearful anymore.
Yeah.
So
it's
you
the
just
moral
have to
superiority.
Yeah, they're just but punishing and judging based on fear. And so I just say, you know what? You're probably right. I lose nothing by being wrong. Nothing. I'm like, you're probably right. Probably should.
That's amazing advice. I mean, I should apply that, to be honest.
It's very, very, very free.
Very effective. It looks
very
like
liberating.
It, yeah.
You're free from other people's judgment.
Absolutely. Definitely. Now, last fan question. Kim, I love your fashion style. What is your personal fashion mantra?
Probably now that I'm 46, it's comfort over everything. My personal fashion mantra, I've always used to say, if I had to choose a brand that I kind of represented, it would be very Ralph Lauren, or Emporio Armani kind of thing. Like I like classic styles, classic tailoring, classic styles. I've never been into bright colors or flamboyant things. Like if you open my wardrobe is actually color coded. So it's color coded because it makes it easier to find things. And it goes black, 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 navy, gray, dark gray, medium gray, light gray, white. And then I think there's one green top at the end and one yellow and one blue. And that's it. Like my entire wardrobe is palettes of creams, grays, blacks and whites and navies. I don't wear navy very often because I like classic styles that suit my body, that are comfortable and easy to wear. And I like really nice tailoring. And I've always loved really, really nice tailoring and really nice fabrics. And I spend a lot of money on clothes that last for a long time. So if you buy expensive clothes, really classic pieces that last for a long time, then they don't date either. It's a very efficient way to fill your wardrobe because you're not buying kind of new styles that are going out of fashion. That's the way I've always dressed.
Oh, awesome.
Great question.
Well, I'm conscious of time and I know you have to run. So
it's fine.
I could talk to you for forever. Like, I mean, I have so many other questions that I haven't even started to. But now
because I'm a talker.
No, because it's fascinating, right? Like, I'm always curious and interested to know to people who've got something to teach us, right? Like, because we all have to learn constantly. I think, and if I ever meet a person who says, "Oh, I know it all," I'm suspect immediately. So I'm always like, I'm learning so much from you, and I'm sure the listeners are going to learn so much from you when they tune into the episode. So it's great. I'm loving this.
Thank you.
But now we're going to play a fun game, which is called the rapid fire questions. So basically, I'll
Okay.
ask you 10 questions. You don't have time to think, and you just have to answer whatever the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay, go.
Okay? And it has to be really rapid fire. You can't take more than 3, 4 seconds to think about
Okay.
the answer. All right?
Hard for me. Okay, go.
Choose one, carbs or proteins.
Protein.
Okay. The best cheat day meal that you have.
Pizza.
Okay. Your favorite book.
Oh, anything to do with psychology.
Okay. If you had a dinner party at your place and you could invite 3 celebrity guests, dead or alive, whom would they be?
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't really even know any celebrities.
Or it could be anyone. It could be anyone.
Who would I invite? Probably Gandhi.
Okay.
Really, really interested in Gandhi. Really smart people. Gandhi or Nelson Mandela and Albert Einstein.
Okay, awesome. Now, if a biopic movie was to be made on your life, which actress would you like to play your role in it?
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. Okay. If you had to write a memoir, what would you call your memoir?
Nobody cares. Work harder.
Okay. Your favorite holiday spot in the world?
Holiday sport?
Yeah, holiday spot, like holiday destination.
Oh, holiday spot.
Yes.
At the minute, it's probably the Marbella Club in Spain. It's like my favorite place in the world. I love going there.
Okay. Pick one, Beyonce or Taylor Swift?
Beyonce. I couldn't even sing you a Taylor Swift song. I don't even know any of them.
Okay. And now, so if you had to take an Uber and you were stuck with just one song on repeat from these two, which one would your preference be? And this is constantly for your entire trip. Like if it's a 30-minute drive, this is the
Hopefully,
only
I know the
song you're gonna
songs.
listen.
Okay. I know nothing about current affairs or current music or current movies.
I'm hoping you would know this because you have kids. I'm just guessing you might know them.
Okay, go for it.
Justin Bieber's "Baby, Baby, Baby, Please" or Taylor Swift's "We Are Never, Ever, Ever Getting Back Together."
I think I've heard that Taylor Swift one. I have no idea about the Justin Bieber one. So
Okay.
probably Taylor Swift then.
All right, cool. And last question. So Valentine's Day is around the corner. What Valentine's Day tip would you like to give to singles and couples?
Are you ready for it?
Absolutely.
Valentine's Day is a man-made construction to make money, so ignore it. We don't even know it's Valentine's Day in our house. We don't even celebrate Mother's Day or Father's Day. We don't do anything for each other. Like, you know your self-worth enough to not need your partner to, can I expand on this? Get yourself
Absolutely.
into, I know you said no, but I'm going to do it anyway. Get yourself into a relationship with a man or a woman who truly understands value, who understands how to support you, and who, when you ask them to do something, no matter what it is, will say, of course, no problem, because you are important to them, regardless of what it is that you've asked them to do. And when you do that and you're in that kind of relationship, which takes a hell of a lot of work, you don't need Mother's Day, you don't need Valentine's Day, you don't need Father's Day. You don't need any of those days because you truly know your worth in the relationship and you know your worth from your children, and you don't need some farcical,
Capitalist Day.
bunch
let's
of
just call it.
roses and card to. I think women love Valentine's Day because finally their man's gonna do something for them, and and they feel like special for a day, or for a moment or for a dinner. I feel special every day with my husband because
Yeah.
he truly cherishes values and supports me. Does help that I make millions, I guess, but so yeah. So anyway, just build that kind of relationship, and you won't need those days.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's actually quite wonderful. Thanks. I think I'm single, so I appreciate you saying that. So yes, absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask you on your Instagram account. Like you've got 4 million followers, and And my sense of stalking your Instagram, for lack of a better word, is that when it comes to trolls, you are someone, at least from as an outsider, you're quite indifferent with your success, and you're quite indifferent with trolls or criticism or failure. Would that be a right sort of an assumption to make? Because you just do what you need to do, you've got your blinkers on, and you just keep powering through, and you're not necessarily like giving it back to trolls for whatever reason. You're just like, yeah, whatever. They're having a field day, let them have it. Is that
There's two
right,
things.
wrong?
Two things I would say. Grant Cardone, who I love, always says, some days they love me, some days they hate me. Both days I get paid. And so I have learned that if you do not have trolls, you are not doing anything worthwhile. If you're not doing something worth talking about, no one will talk about you. So I love it when I get trolled because it means that I am successful. It means I'm doing something worth talking about and worth giving people an opinion about. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I do kick back at the trolls sometimes in comments. One, because I'm very witty and I can usually look at the assumption of what they're saying and take it apart. And so I have fun doing that sometimes. Secondly, bad things don't exist in the world because of the people who do them, but because of the people who stand by and say nothing. It's not a quote by me. I don't even know who it is, but it's a very famous quote. And I've always lived my life by that. I've always stood up for what is right. And so if trolls come onto my page and troll me, I will go back to them and kick back at them and say, you don't get to do this on my page. And here's the other thing. It's my page. I put out the wine, the cheese, and the crackers. And if they don't like it, they can fuck off. I just block them. I'm like, sorry for swearing on your podcast, but I'm like, seriously, people are like, I don't know what to do about the trolls. I'm like, would you let someone come into your house and shit on your floor? No, you would kick them out and you would never let them come back. Kick them off your Instagram. So you have to understand that, if someone's being super trolling and nasty, kick them out of your Instagram, and if they're just being hateful and snidey and whatever, well, then just, have fun with them or just ignore them. I have just got to the point now, like I get so many negative comments on my Instagram. Like if I was to pull out my Instagram now in the notifications, my husband said to me the other day, I pulled out Instagram and he goes, what are all those tabs at the top? And I said, oh, that's all notifications, comments, follows, likes, this, people. And he was like, shit, I don't have those. I was like, yeah, you don't have thousands of notifications every day. And so I go into comments in the tab and I look through the comments to see is there anything worth responding to. And I see all these hate comments. Oh, you don't know shit. This broad doesn't know what she's talking about. Yeah. So I'm supposed to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I just go, oh yeah, oh yeah. Whenever you get like 300 of them a day, you learn they just slide off you. I think in the beginning when people are starting out and they get one hateful comment, they're like, oh my God, like this person like didn't like my comment. And I'm like, seriously, like let it go. Like see whenever you get 300 of them, you're like, it's just like, you water off a duck's back. But the thing you have to remember in the beginning is if you're not getting hate, you're not doing anything worthwhile. So my goal in life is always to get more hate.
Okay. And use that hate to something positive.
Yeah, don't pay any attention to it. Like it's only just someone who's, got a mobile phone and a thumb and think that they think they're an expert in it. So it's like, I just like, okay,
absolutely.
sure. I'm just like, yeah, sure. You're probably right. Yeah, whatever. It's just, I just keep doing me and just keep putting out content. And well, the other thing you have to remember is if you put out content that generates an enormous amount of hate, you will go viral because unless something polarizes people, it doesn't go viral.
Yeah.
If it's funny, it'll go viral, but something has to polarize people in order for it to really pick up a lot of attention. I remember years ago, Jordan Peterson, before he was massive, he just starts, they started putting content out online and stuff, and he immediately polarized people because they started calling him a misogynist.
Yeah.
And he's not a misogynist. I'm very good friends with his daughter, Michaela. And it was him being called a misogynist that shot him into the stratosphere. Had he not had the polarizing hate, he would never have got to where he is today. So unless you learn to embrace it and realize that it's part of success, you'll never be successful. So when it comes at me, I'm like, great, I love it. I love it when I get the hate. I love it when people make videos about me. People take my content. This is the trend on Instagram now, is to make content about other people's content where you watch them in the video and then you comment on it. People send these all the time. Oh, this person made this video about you. I'm like, great. I love it. Like spread the content. Great. Like say I'm talking trash. I'm talking shit. I don't know what I'm talking about. Brilliant, because there'll be people watching that going, oh, I actually quite like what this girl's saying. I'm going to go check her out. And they go and they check you out. There'll always be a portion of people that'll say, you don't know what you're talking about, and they'll come and find me. So I love it when people talk shit about me. It literally grows my Instagram. My Instagram grows by about, at the minute, about 70 to 80,000 a week at the minute is growing at, because of the amount of content that we're putting out. And you know, the content that generates the most follows is the controversial content, is the one where I say fruit makes you fat, or, you know, muscle only grows in the final reps of the final set. I have a 3 videos that go viral constantly every day, and they're the ones that generate thousands and thousands and thousands of follows. And those people who following are not commenting, but and most of the comments are negative. So it's the negative commenters that are driving the virility of it, and that's what's generating the most follows. So they're driving the content out to the people who want to see the content and who are now following me. So when you reframe it like that and see that the haters are actually your biggest advertising feature, revenue generator, you learn to love them. I would worry if I didn't have haters every day. I would be like, shit, what's wrong? I'm clearly not doing anything worthwhile.
On that wonderful note, so final question for you, Kim, before we wrap up. You've got 4 million followers on Instagram. You've been on the Forbes magazine. You run $1 million company. You know, you've got so much success, and you're a self-made successful person. You could associate so many adjectives. You know, vibrant, vivacious, ambitious, a doer. You know, you could give yourself so many different titles like entrepreneur, nutritionist, an expert, businesswoman. Where do you go? Where does Kim Constable go next? Where do you want to go next? And what is the fire that you wake up every day in the morning and like, you know what, I'm ready to take on to the world? What's your motivation?
My goal is to be the Ireland's first self-made female billionaire. And people ask me all the time, why? And I'm like, why not? Life is for living. I'm 45. I'm halfway through my life. Like, why not? Why not shoot for the biggest possible goal that I can and have a hell of a lot of fun getting there? So like, what drives me in the morning is I'm a problem solver at nature. I am driven to solve problems and help people. My parents did it when I was younger. All I knew was my parents constantly helping people. And it's what I'm driven to do. I'm driven to help people, to have more, to be their best selves, because that's what I want for myself. And so if I see someone who's striving to be better, I'm all there to help them. And that's genuinely what gets me up in the morning. It's what drives me to do what I do in my company and help people. But let me tell you, it's also really nice making, like, we did $10 million last year. It's like I work probably 60, 80 hours a week. But like, I also party hard too, you know, I go on some really nice vacations. So you have the balance, you know, and so you work really hard, and then you have, you know, my life is not monotonous or mundane, and this is what it takes in order for it to be that way. And so that's really what drives me to get up every day.
That's incredible. That's wonderful. Now we ask all our guests who come on this podcast 2 questions. One is, what is your anthem song?
My anthem song. Is it wrong to say I don't have one? I don't really.
If you don't have one, that's fine. You could just say
anything house. I'm a real, like, I go back to my clubbing days. Like, I was, you know, like whistles and white gloves and glow sticks kind of girl. You know, like taking loads of drugs and being on all the raves. You know, that was my youth. And so anything with a real hard, heavy house beat, like, I'm all over. I love a good driving heavy hard. Oh, okay. I do have one. Probably every time I hear it, I'm transported. So I would probably say Faithless Insomnia. I think it's probably my favorite song of all time. Yeah, like, it's one of the ones that if I ever hear it, I'm like, oh, just transported back to some really good club memories of probably being completely off my head on drugs.
And last question, what's the one thing, well, we asked what's the one thing you love about Melbourne, but you can say what's the one thing you love about Australia?
I've never been to Melbourne, actually, but I have been to many parts of Australia, just not Melbourne. Probably my husband.
Oh, he's Australian, of course.
He's Australian. The one thing I love about Australia, what do I love about Australia? Well, look, okay, really funny story. Whenever we first went to Australia, we went onto the beach, and Ryan was like, we'll go to the beach. And I was like, yeah, great. And we went on the beach, and I looked up and down this miles of white beach. I was like, where's the bar? And he went, there's no bars on the beach in Australia. I was like, what do you mean there's no bars? You know, I grew up in Europe. Every single beach has a bar and sun loungers, and they bring you drinks. And I'm like, well, how do you eat and drink? He was like, you bring an esky. I was like, ah, fuck this shit. Like, no way. This is terrible. So I can't say that your beaches are my favorite thing. And I wear false eyelashes, and I used to have like extensions in my hair. So I used to go into the waves and get bitch slapped by the waves. Like, oh no, I'm not into the sea. So I'm telling you all the things I don't like about Australia. Probably the people, I have to say, like being married to an Australian, and my family, my Australian family are like, they're just like my family in terms of how close we are, my sisters and things. So I would say probably the people are my favorite thing about Australia.
Awesome. I'm sure our listeners will be very, very happy to hear that. Now, this is the end of the show. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate you being so generous and gracious with your time with us, because I know you've got 100,000 things to do, as you've just said that you would have anyway. If I may say so, congratulations on all your success and all your achievements. I think it's incredible when people do so well and are able to share that as well. And you're so candid and honest. That's refreshing. That's inspiring, and I just hope you continue to, become the billionaire in the Ireland, and
Watch this
you
space.
come back on this podcast, and then I get to interview you again. And if you're ever in Melbourne, I do hope that we do another face-to-face podcast in my studio. I'm at my home at the moment, but yeah, that would be fantastic. So
For
congratulations.
sure. I think that, yes, I definitely would like to travel a bit more around Australia. We normally just go to Brisbane whenever we're there. Been to Sydney a few times as well, Byron Bay and things. So, but yeah, definitely for sure, Melbourne is on my list. So I'll hold you to that. Thank you so much for having me. This has been absolutely awesome. I love talking about myself. So
No, it's
perfect for me.
great. I mean, you should, absolutely. And I want to give a quick shout out to your brother-in-law, Terry, who made all of this happen.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Terry.
Terry. So,
Yeah.
yes, I will call him and I will thank him personally as well. So, thank you. Now, before you go, I'm just going to take a photo, if that's okay,
Of
just
course.
so that we can. Just give me 1 second. This is what happened. All right, I think we just have to work with this. I'll fix it later.
Do you know what I'll do as well?
Yeah.
You take it.
No, you go.
I was going to do a screenshot.
Oh, you're doing
Send
sweet.
it, yeah.
There you go. See? Yeah.
I'll do like so smile at the camera, and I'll do like a screen grab. There we go. And I will drop it to you. Yeah, okay. I'll drop that to you in WhatsApp as well.
Thank you so much, and all the best. Trust me, all the best, and keep winning.
Okay, thank you so much. This was great. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kim. Cheers.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us. If you haven't already, kindly please subscribe to our Spotify channel and our YouTube channel on Let's Talk series. We are also on Apple Music and Amazon. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, we are on Let's Talk Melb. And as always, we welcome any feedback, suggestions, and comments. So we look forward to hearing from you.